Would continue with our session on DI and quant. So the first initial topic would be the preparation tips, right, Dhruvati sir?
Yes.
Followed by a approach, and then of course the Q&A session and other sessions. So over to you, Dhruvati sir.
Thank you. Hi everyone. Before I start, may I request everybody to go to settings, and then what you do is you change the resolution to the maximum possible HD or whatever, because otherwise you might not see the PPT very clearly. So anybody who is seeing it on YouTube, just make sure that you go to settings, you go to that cogwheel, go to settings, view it in the highest resolution possible. Generally, YouTube transmits it in low resolution by default. If you keep it in highest resolution, you will be able to see it the best. Number one. Number two, we have done two sessions already. One was about cat form filling and all the things that we had to keep in mind. The second session we had done about logical reasoning, and the reason we did it about logical reasoning was because that section is something which was different from what you actually study as a preparation. And it was also something which was slightly uncommon. Today we are going to talk about quant and DI, the quantitative aptitude part and the data interpretation part. Just remember that in at least in CAT, and we will talk about that as well, at least in CAT, the logical reasoning and the DI section comes combined in one section. The quant section comes separate. ZAT, which is the other major exam, there the pattern will be revealed only closer to the exam. ZAT has been, I'll not say the word inconsistent, but I will rather say, and me being from an alumni of XLRI, I have always felt that they keep a surprise element in terms of your exam preparation. So just keep it in mind that it can be LRDI, it can be DIs in quant. They might throw a little bit of surprise here and there this year. So that's how it is. The other major exam that was there, that is IFT, is not happening this year. As you already know, it has been the admission process has been merged with CAT. NMAT has a reasoning section. The DI part is very, very small and comes along with the quant section. That's the brief pro forma about it. What we are going to do in today's session is we are going to divide it actually into two parts. We are first going to do quant, okay, and then we'll come to DI, and then we'll try to merge and see what is common, what is required, what is the background, and so on and so forth. Now, the first thing that you need to keep in mind whenever we are talking about the quant section, and the full name of the section is Quantitative Aptitude, also known as QA, or Quantitative Reasoning, as is used by some of the schools. Typically, and this is remember, this is very interesting because neither in the VRC section nor in the LRDI section do we get standalone questions, so many of them. If you look at the VRC section, there is RC, which is like a passage followed by some 3-4 questions. Then there'll be critical reasoning, which is again a small passage followed by some 3-4 questions. Generally, even the sentence correction questions also come in a set of 2-3 questions. Whereas if you look at the history of CAT and ZAT, the quantitative section has been mainly full of standalone questions, which will mean that if there are 22 to 23 questions in that section, at least 18 to 19 of them are distinct from each other. They are not really clubbed with one data. Very, very rarely, and we have seen that in CAT 2013, CAT 2015, that some of the questions are clubbed together, which will mean that they will give you one diagram or one data, and from that data they ask 2 3 questions, but they're based on one single concept, maybe a time speed distance, maybe an application of percentages, etc. So the basic difference is, if you remember last time in LR, and I'm going to say the same thing about DI also, uh, we had discussed, if you remember, that we choose a set, at least on the face of it, based on the amount of data that you'll have to read vis-a-vis the number of questions that are there against that data. Now that policy does not work in quant because each question is separate. Okay, so how to deal with that and what is the strategy, we will talk about it as we move forward. But yeah, that is the one. Now another interesting part of the story is, this is typically the lowest scoring section vis-a-vis LRDI and VRC. Okay, if you look at history of CAT, because of the 2.5 3 lakh people who will be writing, incidentally almost 3.3 lakh people have filled up the CAT form this year. If you look at them, a large quantity of them are slightly, they don't worry about VRC so much, they don't worry about LRDI so much, but they have a internal fear about quant section, thinking it is maths. Okay, and maths has been something which has dreaded us, which we have been petrified about during our childhood, class 10, class 12, and so on. So there is an inherent fear about the subject, and trust me, it is not only true for the non-engineers, it is also true for the engineers. Even engineers and science students uh, are not the best when it comes to quantitative aptitude. They can still solve the question, but can they solve it the best way? We will talk about it as we move forward. But yes, not really. So you'll have to understand that if you are scoring less in this, if there are 24 questions in the English section and you are able to do 20, on the other hand, if there are 24 or 22 questions in the quant section, you're able to do only 10 to 12, that is not necessarily a bad attempt. Because what you need to understand is, if everybody is scoring less, then a less score itself gives you higher percentile, and what ultimately matters is percentile. The absolute score does not matter. What ultimately matters is the rank and the percentile. So typically low scoring section, please do not compare it with VRC or LRDI. If in VRC or LRDI you are able to do 70% of the number of questions or 80% of the number of overall questions, here as you can see, 60% of the questions attempted with approximately 80% accuracy. I don't want to put a absolute number to it. I want to give it in percentages because uh, the exact number of questions, etc., and the difficulty level of the paper gets revealed only on the day of the exam. So as of now, I don't want to put it a number, but yeah, if you typically look into it, 60% of the questions with an 80% accuracy rate generally gives you approximately 90 plus percentile. I will always talk about 90 plus percentile and not 99 or 95 or 90, because first of all, we will worry about the sectional cutoff. Secondly, 90 or 95 percentile also depends on the difficulty level of the paper. Now, take this advice with a word of caution. Please remember, if the paper becomes very easy, then obviously this can shoot up, because if the accuracy rate also goes up and number of attempts also goes up, then automatically obviously this will improve. And for the last 2 years or so, and in fact also during COVID, uh, the quant section has been easier if you look at the last 30-40 years of history of CAT. So uh, I will essentially say that you have to still go with the policy that you will attempt as many questions as possible with higher accuracy rate, obviously, and we'll talk about that in the next section. But yes, typically, I'm just putting a number, assuming that you will have 20 to 22 questions in this. Okay, and if I talk about last 2-3 years, if you are able to attempt around 13 to 14 questions, and out of that, if approximately 11 to 12 of them are right, that makes you approximately 80% accuracy. Then 80, 85, 80% accuracy, then it looks like you will be safely be crossing the 90 percentile barrier. The 90 percentile barrier is the sectional cutoff for most of the institutes. Most of these institutes will keep an 87.5 percentile to 90 percentile as sectional cutoff for a general candidate. Okay, obviously it differs from general candidate to category candidates to engineers to non engineers to different types of categories. I'm not going into the depth of it, but yeah, uh, this amount of score, that is 11 to 12 questions correct, 1 to 2 questions wrong, generally is a safe score uh, in the paper when it comes to the main paper. Now it is very very important, as I said, that you take it with a lot of salt, because it purely depends on the difficulty level of the paper, and therefore the self confidence is very very important here. If you are a well prepared student and you are not being able to score, you should have the confidence that the paper is tough, and therefore the cutoff will go down. If you are a well prepared student and you are able to do more, you should be understanding that it is an easy paper that has come, and therefore the cutoff can go higher. So in both the cases, it is very important that you are a well prepared student, because if you are not a well prepared student, then you don't know whether the paper is tough or easy for everybody. So this is very very important as a disclaimer. Okay, let's talk about the quant section first. Now in this quant section, uh, unlike LRDI, obviously there are concepts, but then the practice becomes much more important. Here, concentrate on the concepts. Okay, lot of people concentrate on formula. Okay, direct formula based application questions no longer come in CAT. Rather, let me put it this way: in CAT nowadays, the questions that come, you need to understand which formula to apply first of all. Otherwise, there will be a confusion. So therefore, it is important to understand the concept. Okay, for example, if I talk about a very simple question like how many numbers are there between 1 to 100. Okay, a very simple concept: how many numbers are there between 1 to 100. Okay, now most of the people blurt out with an answer saying that there are 98 numbers, because between 1 to 100, so 1 hai और 100 है, बीच में 2 से लेके 99 है, so there are 98 numbers. If you are well versed with the concept of numbers, you should say there are infinite numbers, because I did not say natural numbers or integers. Okay, I said how many numbers are there between 1 to 100. So now different types of numbers are there. There need not be necessarily integers or natural numbers, right? There can be fractions, there can be irrational numbers, there can be rational numbers, and so on and so forth. Now therefore, it is very important that you understand the concepts, because the questions in CAT actually focus on you understanding the concept. If you don't understand the concept and you just go mugging up a set of formula, exams like CAT and ZAT, you will not be able to do good. You might be able to do good in a slightly lower level exam, let's say something like SNAP or NMAT, but definitely not in CAT and ZAT. So these are the prime exams. So please understand that the concepts are very, very important. The foundation chapters that I insist everybody should study and study well are ratio proportion variation, numbers and its properties, percentages and averages, equations, and this part is slightly, I will say, algebra, whatever you call it is algebra, that is linear and quadratic equations, and 2D geometry. Okay, 2D geometry. These are some of the chapters where the theory, the concepts that the teacher teaches, or the theory that is there in the book. I'm still insisting that I'm still not reached to the stage where I'm talking about questions. Okay, the concepts will play a very, very important role. Okay, so for example, when I talk about average, understanding what is arithmetic mean, what is geometric mean, what is harmonic mean, okay, is very, very important. Okay, uh, variation, ratio proportion variation, what is direct variation, what is inverse variation, how do they work, numbers, what are the different types of numbers, what exactly do you mean by lowest common multiple or highest common factor. Don't just what people do is, we know that what is LCM is we make some boxes and we do that. वैसा नहीं करना है. अंडरस्टैंड कि एलसीएम का मतलब क्या है, व्हाट इज दिस लोएस्ट कॉमन मल्टीपल, व्हाट इज द हाईएस्ट कॉमन फैक्टर. जब तक आप ये नहीं समझेंगे तब तक आपके क्वेश्चंस नहीं होंगे. नाउ व्हाई आई एम सेइंग these chapters are important, don't misunderstand me. मैं ये बिल्कुल नहीं बोल रहा हूँ कि सारे क्वेश्चंस उसी से आएंगे, 80% क्वेश्चन उसी से आएंगे. मैं ये बोल रहा हूँ कि अगर आपके इन चैप्टर्स के कॉन्सेप्ट्स ठीक नहीं है तो आप बाकी चैप्टर्स में भी अच्छे नहीं कर पाएंगे. नाउ व्हाट डू आई मीन बाय दैट इज, अगर आपके रेशियो प्रोपोर्शन वेरिएशन के कॉन्सेप्ट ठीक नहीं है तो आप टाइम स्पीड डिस्टेंस में अच्छे नहीं हो सकते. अगर आपके परसेंटेजेस या एवरेजेस के कॉन्सेप्ट ठीक नहीं है तो आप प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस या मिक्सचर एलिगेशंस के क्वेश्चंस में भी आप अच्छे नहीं कर सकते. ओके, सो these chapters form the foundation of maths और quantitative aptitude. तो अगर आप इन चैप्टर्स को ध्यान से नहीं पढ़ेंगे और इन चैप्टर्स के कॉन्सेप्ट्स को ठीक से नहीं समझेंगे तो आपके जो बाकी चैप्टर्स है उसको आप एप्लीकेशंस के तौर पर नहीं देख पाएंगे. ओके, बाकी चैप्टर उसके अलावा जितने भी चैप्टर्स है, चाहे इसको आप टाइम स्पीड डिस्टेंस बोले, चाहे परमुटेशन कॉम्बिनेशन बोले, चाहे कोऑर्डिनेट ज्योमेट्री बोले, चाहे ट्रिगोनोमेट्री बोले, many chapters, मिक्सचर्स एलिगेशंस, टाइम एंड वर्क, ये जितने भी चैप्टर्स है इसको करने के लिए आपको ये जो 4-5 चैप्टर का मैंने नाम आपको स्लाइड में दिखाए, इनका भरोसा जरूरी होगा. बिकॉज अगर इनके कॉन्सेप्ट्स क्लियर होंगे तो आप बाकी क्वेश्चंस को उसके एप्लीकेशंस के तौर पे दिखा सकते हो. व्हाट आई मीन बाय दिस इज, आई विल शो यू बाय एन एग्जांपल. दिस इज ए रियल कैट क्वेश्चन. पहले आप पढ़ लीजिए. आई लीव इट विथ यू फॉर लेट्स से अराउंड 10 seconds. Just see to it. ये करीब आज से 5-7 साल पहले इट केम इन कैट. बहुत स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड क्वेश्चन है, बहुत ज्यादा टफ नहीं है. पढ़ लिए? ओके. अगर आपके आंसर आ गए तो आप लाइव चैट में आंसर्स पुट कर सकते हैं. ठीक है. आई वुड लव टू सी हाउ मेनी पीपल कैन एक्चुअली सॉल्व दिस क्वेश्चन. अच्छा लगेगा मुझे. ठीक है. नाउ ओके, इफ एनीबडी हैज ट्राइड, जनरली अगर आप इसको टाइम स्पीड डिस्टेंस चैप्टर मान के चल रहे हो, ओके, अगर आपको लगता है कि ये टाइम स्पीड डिस्टेंस का चैप्टर है तो सुचंद्रा हैज गिवन ए आंसर. सॉरी सुचंद्रा, यू आर रॉन्ग, ठीक है, एंड वी विल डिस्कस दैट व्हाई। जब ये क्वेश्चंस हम लोग ये जो क्वेश्चन हमारे सामने है, अगर आप इसको टाइम स्पीड डिस्टेंस की तरह देखोगे तो आप इसको ट्रेडिशनली चालू करो कि डिस्टेंस इज इक्वल टू स्पीड इनटू टाइम, ठीक है। आप स्टार्टिंग टाइम तो हमें पता नहीं है, इसमें बोला है कि हम लोग पहुंचने का टाइम 1 बजे है और 11 AM है, ठीक है। सो हमें खाली इतना ही पता है कि पहली बार जितना भी टाइम लगा था दूसरा बार उसे 2 घंटा कम लगा, ठीक है। सो देयरफॉर व्हाट वी विल डू इज, आई थिंक रजनीश हैज गिवन अ करेक्ट आंसर। तो हम लोग क्या करते हैं, हम लोग दोनों डिस्टेंस सेम रखेंगे, तो हम लोग पहले डिस्टेंस निकालेंगे, राइट। तो हम लोग इसको ऐसे करेंगे कि पहली बार जब हम लोग जा रहे थे तो डिस्टेंस 20 था, मान लीजिए टी टाइम लगा था, उसके अगले बार हमें 30 पे गए तो t-2 लगा, ठीक है। इससे टी निकला, उसके बाद डिस्टेंस निकला और टाइम निकला अलग से, एंड देन वी फाइंड आउट द स्टार्टिंग टाइम। सो फॉर एग्जांपल आई traditionally solve it for you. So let's say this is 20t is equal to 30t minus 60, right? So therefore what we get is 10t is equal to 60, that means t is equal to 6 hours, ठीक है। यानी पहली बार जब ट्रेवल कर रहे थे तो 1 बज गया था, 6 घंटे लगे थे, यानी सुबह 7 बजे चले थे, ठीक है, 7 बजे चले थे। और अभी क्योंकि 12 बजे पहुंचना है, अब डिस्टेंस भी निकालना है क्योंकि 6 आवर्स था और तब स्पीड 20 था, तो 20 इंटू 6 120 किलोमीटर टोटल डिस्टेंस था, ठीक है। अब सुबह 7 बजे चले थे, 12 बजे पहुंचना है, 5 घंटे लगेंगे, तो 120/5 ऐसे करके हम लोग 24 किलोमीटर पर आवर में चलेंगे, ठीक है। सो दैट 24 किलोमीटर पर आवर इज द करेक्ट आंसर, ठीक है। सो दैट इज हाउ यू गेट टू द आंसर, ठीक है। और जैसे आपने देखा कि ये प्रोसेस में अगर मैं करता हूं और इसको टाइम स्पीड डिस्टेंस मानता हूं तो आपको ना हो कम से कम 1 से 1.5 मिनट तो लग ही जाएंगे, ठीक है। लेकिन इस क्वेश्चन की एक स्पेशलिटी था, और ये क्वेश्चन अगर आप इस क्वेश्चन को टाइम स्पीड डिस्टेंस ना सोच के 1 मिनट के लिए रेशियो प्रोपोर्शन वेरिएशन समझे तो आपको बहुत मजा आएगा, ठीक है। क्योंकि ये बेहतरीन क्वेश्चन है अगर आपके बेसिक कॉन्सेप्ट्स क्लियर है तो। फॉर एग्जांपल आपको पता होना चाहिए दैट अगर डिस्टेंस को सेम रखा जाए, और मैं इसको रेशियो प्रोपोर्शन की तरह देख रहा हूं, अगर डिस्टेंस को सेम रखा जाए, अगर डिस्टेंस कांस्टेंट है, दोनों केस में डिस्टेंस सेम ही है, देन स्पीड एंड टाइम आर इनवर्सली प्रोपोर्शनल। और मैं एकदम बेसिक कॉन्सेप्ट पे जा रहा हूँ, वेरिएशन के कॉन्सेप्ट पे जा रहा हूँ, यानी जितना स्पीड बढ़ेगा टाइम उतना कम लगेगा। अगर स्पीड डबल हो जाता है तो टाइम हाफ हो जाता है, अगर स्पीड 3 टाइम्स हो जाता है तो टाइम 1/3 हो जाता है, एंड सो ऑन। सो स्पीड एंड टाइम आर इनवर्सली प्रोपोर्शनल, ठीक है। सिमिलरली देयरफॉर अगर हम लोग टाइम उनका एवरेज निकालने का कोशिश करेंगे, तो देयरफॉर अगर टाइम का हम लोग एरिथमेटिक मीन निकालेंगे तो स्पीड का हार्मोनिक मीन हो जाएगा, बिकॉज अगर आपको याद है एरिथमेटिक मीन इज x1 प्लस x2 डॉट 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 अप टिल xn बाय n, ठीक है। और हार्मोनिक मीन जो है दैट इज n डिवाइडेड बाय 1/x1 1/x2 एंड सो ऑन, ठीक है। ये आपको पढ़ना चाहिए, एंड if these two concepts are clear then it will be fantastic. Now why I am saying this is because आप देखेंगे एक बार वो 11 बजे पहुंचा, एक बार वो 1 बजे पहुंचा और एक बार 12 बजे पहुंचा, यानी जो भी टाइम है, अब मैं ये नहीं निकालूंगा कि उसको कितना टाइम लग रहा है, ठीक है। जो भी टाइम पे वो पहुंच रहा है, वट एवर टाइम ही इज रीचिंग, कैन आई से दैट टाइम टेकन इज द एरिथमेटिक मीन ऑफ द अदर 2 टाइम्स? Okay, so 11 o'clock 1 p.m and reaching at 12 noon, which is just bang in the middle. Okay, so the time taken is arithmetic mean of the previous 2 time takens. Now since speed and time are inversely proportional, ठीक है, the speed will be following what is known as harmonic mean. अगर आपने averages chapter किया हुआ है the speed will be following what is known as a harmonic mean. Since time taken is arithmetic mean, speed is harmonic mean. Okay, and again averages chapter में आपको याद होगा arithmetic mean is greater than equal to geometric mean is greater than equal to harmonic mean. यानी arithmetic mean harmonic mean से ज्यादा होता है. ठीक है, तो ये कॉन्सेप्ट अगर आपको पता है, देन व्हाट यू विल नो इज दैट अगर ये 20 किलोमीटर पर आवर है, ये 30 किलोमीटर पर आवर है, उनका एरिथमेटिक मीन 25 किलोमीटर पर आवर है, जो रिजल्ट आने वाला है वो 25 किलोमीटर पर आवर से कम होगा, क्योंकि एरिथमेटिक मीन 25 किलोमीटर पर आवर है, जबकि हमारा आंसर हार्मोनिक मीन होनी चाहिए. सो आंसर 25 किलोमीटर पर आवर से कम होगा, and therefore definitely the only answer possible is 24 kilometer per hour, and that would have taken you 30 seconds if your concept about averages is clear. Okay, now that is what is very very important when we talk about understanding why we should see it as time speed, why we should see it as ratio proportion and not as time speed distance, why should we see it as a concept of average and not as time speed distance, and so on. Okay, so just keep it in mind that ये जो चैप्टर्स मैंने बोला, मैं एक बार दोबारा इसमें वापस जा रहा हूँ कि ये जो चैप्टर्स मैंने बोला, ये चैप्टर्स बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, ये चैप्टर्स आपको अच्छे से करना है, और उसके बाद बाकी चैप्टर्स जो है इसको आप एप्लीकेशंस की तरह देख सकते हो. Very important thing to understand, there is nothing called an easy chapter or a tough chapter. हम लोगों ने अपने मन में ना कुछ कुछ चैप्टर्स को डर के मारे इनको हम लोगों ने टफ चैप्टर और इजी चैप्टर का नाम दे दिया है. जैसे मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ, जैसे ही मैं अगर बोलूँगा कि परम्यूटेशन कॉम्बिनेशन, आप बोलोगे बहुत टफ चैप्टर है. अगर मैं बोलूँगा लॉगरिदम्स, आप बोलोगे बहुत टफ चैप्टर है. कोऑर्डिनेट ज्योमेट्री, वो तो मुझसे बनता ही नहीं है. Okay, there is nothing called an easy chapter or a tough chapter. These chapters become slightly डरावना because जो लोग 12th में जिनके पास मैथ्स नहीं था, वो लोग थोड़ा इन चैप्टर्स को लेके थोड़ा वरीड हो सकते हैं, बिकॉज फॉर देम दिस इज द फर्स्ट टाइम. ओके, कोऑर्डिनेट ज्योमेट्री आपने थोड़ा सा पढ़ा होगा, फंक्शंस एंड ग्राफ्स आपने थोड़ा सा टच अपॉन क्लास 10th में पढ़ा होगा, हायर ऑर्डर ट्रिगोनोमेट्री आपने साइन कॉस tan पढ़ लिया है, लेकिन साइन 2 थीटा, साइन 3 थीटा, ये सब आपने नहीं पढ़ा था. tan 2 थीटा, tan a प्लस भी आपने नहीं पढ़ा था, तो इसलिए ये चैप्टर्स थोड़ा सा डरावने लगते हैं. आई हैव ए वेरी वेरी क्लियर कट रिकमेंडेशन इन दिस. ये जो चैप्टर्स है जिनको आप टफ चैप्टर बोल के डंप करके रखे हो, प्लीज डोंट डंप देम कंप्लीटली, गेट द बेसिक्स क्लियर. मैं एक चीज जो पहले भी बोला था अभी दोबारा बोल रहा हूं, और ये मैं रिपीट करता रहूंगा इन सारे सेशंस, दैट ऐसा कुछ जरूरी नहीं है दैट easy questions always come from easy chapters and tough questions come from tough chapters. There is nothing nothing concept like that. याद रखिएगा, टफ एंड इजी क्वेश्चन चैप्टर देख के नहीं आते. लॉगरिदम से इजी क्वेश्चन आया तब भी आपको करना है. Just give me 1 second, guys. हाँ, लॉगरिदम से इजी क्वेश्चन आया तो भी आपको करना है, फंक्शंस एंड ग्राफ से इजी क्वेश्चन आया तब भी आपको करना है. तो एक बार आपको बेसिक्स वाले चैप्टर खत्म हो जाए तो इन चैप्टर्स के इजी क्वेश्चंस, एटलीस्ट लेवल ऑफ डिफिकल्टी 1 and 2 वाले क्वेश्चन जरूर ट्राई कर लीजिएगा. ओके, बिकॉज नंबर से टफ क्वेश्चन आया और लॉगरिदम से इजी क्वेश्चन आया तो ऑब्वियसली करना तो है ना. That's how it is. You need to do it. I'm not sure whether you are able to see the current slide. I can see only one slide in my YouTube, so I don't know. Can people confirm which slide you can see? I'll just wait for a second to. What is the name of this slide? Is it some things to remember or is it preparation tips? Because my YouTube is showing only one slide for the last so much time. कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है मेरे YouTube में. Okay. Anyway, something. Thank you. Some things to remember. Okay. So maybe my YouTube is giving some problem. Perfect. Just give me 1 second. Okay. Anyway, so coming back, so therefore, very clearly, what we are fundamentally, what I am fundamentally trying to say is that कोई भी chapter को dump मत कीजिएगा, लेकिन इन chapters को करने के लिए, इन chapters को करने के लिए आपको previous वाले जो basic chapters है उनको करना बहुत जरूरी है. So don't ignore them. First do them and then do the LOD 1-2 of these chapters as well. They are easy. They should be seen as application of the basics. उनके कॉन्सेप्ट जरूर 100% ठीक कर लीजिएगा. दिस इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, अदरवाइज यू विल हैव ट्रबल सॉल्विंग दिस क्वेश्चंस. ओके. Unlike sorry guys, my internet is given some trouble. Yeah, unlike DI or VRC, याद रखिएगा, quant has huge scope. I just showed you with one example in the question. Quant has huge scope for alternative methods, for solving from options, from eliminating options. Okay, so therefore it is very important that whenever you are preparing, if you are not thinking about all these things, then you are not preparing for quant fully. ओके, ये चीज आपको LRDI में भी करना है. आई एम नॉट सेइंग दैट इन LRDI यू डोंट डू दैट, बट क्वांट में it has got immense scope. Okay, there is a immense scope for alternative methods, solving from options, eliminating options, so far as this section is concerned. And therefore just make sure that whenever you are preparing, you will have to do that. Now, how to therefore choose questions? While choosing questions, unlike comparing 2 to 3 sets, यहाँ पे what I generally say is that you see 5 questions. Again, click. ठीक है, 5 क्वेश्चन आप देख लीजिए और 5 में से 3-4 आप सिलेक्ट कर लीजिए जो आप पहले अटेम्प्ट करोगे. ठीक है, 4 to 5 questions you see and pick and choose. You don't have to do all the questions. You just pick and choose those questions which you want to do, and only those questions you do, not and you can dump the other questions. If you get time at the end, then you come back to those questions which you did not read or did not study. Choose based on your comfort chapters, choose based on the length of the questions, choose based on the length on the closeness of the options. But yeah, you have to see 4 or 5 questions, and then only you pick and choose which one to do and which one not to do. Okay, but every time you prepare for quant, after you have solved the questions, look out and think for alternative methods. Don't be happy if you have not find out any alternative method apart from the traditional method. See whether you can solve it from options. See whether you can solve it by eliminating options, saying that these 3 cannot be the answer, the 4th can be the answer, and so on and so forth. Whenever you are practicing them, you make sure you explore these above techniques or you seek help. Okay, and make it a regular practice. Don't do it for one test or two tests every time you do a quant practice test, or even a quant exercise. Seek help, take help of the so-called toppers in the class, take help from your quant teacher if any, saying that sir इसका कोई alternative method हो सकता है क्या, सर मैंने कुछ थोड़ा सा ऐसे एक्सप्लोर किया है, is it possible that there is some other way of doing it, I did it in some funny way, is this logic applicable for all the type of questions that come here? But this is something which you will have to do for quant. If you are not doing it for quant and you are solving the question, okay, some people can come to me and say sir I can solve the question, I'm getting the correct answer, that is not good enough for quant. Okay, and that is precisely why I said that if you think that engineers are better in quant and non-engineers are not so good in quant, that is not true. Engineers are good in maths, they don't have the fear of maths. Science people are good in maths, they don't have the fear of maths. But when it comes to quantitative aptitude is the way in which you solve the question and not what is the answer. So ultimately, if you can get the answer by some alternative method and etc., as I had shown you 10 minutes back about how to solve this question, if your concepts are clear, then that is the full preparation for quant. You need to do it. Okay. So two things to keep in mind. There are some basic chapters I already told you. Okay. I am highlighting that name of the chapters. These chapters are mandatory. Don't compromise on them. Learn the concepts. Don't just solve questions. Understand the concept. Variation का मतलब क्या है, averages का मतलब क्या है, कितने टाइप के averages होते हैं, 2D ज्योमेट्री में ट्राइंगल के प्रॉपर्टीज क्या है, सर्कल के प्रॉपर्टीज क्या है, ये सब कुछ आपको जानना जरूरी है. Then these chapters you study only after the basics are clear and see it more as an application. जो भी आप एक्चुअली बाकी जितने भी चैप्टर है, चाहे वो टाइम एंड डिस्टेंस हो, टाइम एंड वर्क हो, मिक्सचर एलिगेशन हो, प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस हो, you will see that every of these chapters you can see them as an application of the previous chapters. This is very very important. And as I said, for quant preparation, two things to keep in mind. Every time you prepare or solve a question, make sure you think of some alternative methods. Make sure you try to solve it from option or limiting from options. At least जब आपका टेस्ट खत्म हो जाए तब जरूर ये प्रैक्टिस कीजिएगा. अगर टेस्ट लिखते वक्त वो प्रेशर में आप नहीं सोच पाए, लेकिन टेस्ट खत्म होने के बाद इसको जरूर एक्सप्लोर करिएगा. जितना आप इसको एक्सप्लोर करेंगे उतना आपका ये एप्टीट्यूड बनता जाएगा. आप देखेंगे धीरे धीरे विद इन 15-20 days you will start doing that during a live test as well. Okay, so this is very very important that you do it. Second, as I said, during the test, make blocks of 4-5 questions. Make sure that you compare and contrast and pick and choose these questions, and that is how you will be able to maximize your score in quant. Okay. So far as DI is concerned, now here we have already covered the logical reasoning part of the DILR section. So I'll purely talk about the data interpretation part. In the data interpretation part, when I call about data interpretation, I mean those questions which require fair amount of calculations. Okay, calculation is a dreaded part in business school entrance exams. Remember, matlab, people hate calculations because the numbers also come very very dreadful, to be honest. Okay, I have rarely seen a DI set in last 20-25 years of my teaching where the figures were really beautiful. आपको क्वेश्चन देखते ही आपको पता चल जाए कि ये आंसर होगा. Very very unlikely. Okay, the calculations worry you. Okay, generally comes in a set of 3 to 4 questions. Going by last 3-4 years, generally at least 2 sets come which are pure DI set. When I mean pure DI set, I mean which involves a fair amount of calculation. There can be one set which is like, the boundary line between LR and DI. So I gave you an example of a chapter like Venn diagram, or maybe a games and tournament questions, which requires a fair amount of calculation as well as a fair amount of logical reasoning. But yeah, Generally, two pure DI sets I have always seen coming in CAT. Okay, except a rare occasion might have been the year of 2010 11, where most of the DI sets are very reasoning based. But other than that, at least one to two DI sets which are pure calculation based has always come in the paper. Uh, Now, the first thing first is, don't worry about the calculations part much. Okay, because if you have seen enough CAT papers, and I insist that you see lot of previous years CAT papers, which are easily available on the internet, as well as there are some books which are available on the internet. Uh, Most of the time, the options are not very near. The options are quite far apart. Okay, they are comfortably far apart. So therefore, even if you do guesswork, approximation, little bit of percentages here and there, I can safely tell you that 70 to 80% of those calculation based questions can be done. Okay, you don't have to get an answer correct up till 2 decimal place or 3 decimal place. That is insane. Okay, you don't have to do that. Most of the time the options are far apart. There is a huge difference when you look at and compare the figures. You will see there is a huge difference between the options. 42%, 44%, 46%, and 50% are like widely far away options. When I mean close options, I mean 42.35, 42.36, 42.37. Okay, so unless and until the options are that close, please work on your approximation prowess. Okay, the quicker you can reach to a range. For example, even if you can say that whatever figure I have, so for example, I'll give a very simple example. Let's say I talk about 2193 divided by 4372. Okay, into 100. Okay, something like that. Now, all I am fundamentally saying, please understand that all I am fundamentally saying is that you don't go into that precise calculation. It is a percentage calculation that needs to be done. I understand that. Okay, but you don't have to go into the preciseness of the calculation. For example, इवन इफ यू अंडरस्टैंड 40, मतलब ये आपको देख के पता चलना चाहिए, मैं अभी करके आपको दिखा रहा हूँ सिंपली इसलिए कि आप उसको समझ जाए. 4300 का हाफ 2150 होता है और 72 का हाफ 36 होता है, राइट? सो हाफ होता है 2186. ठीक है, तो अगर आप इस बेस को देखेंगे, उसका हाफ होगा 2186 अप्रोक्सीमेटली. ये उससे जस्ट ज्यादा है. तो इवन इफ आप ये समझ जाओ कि आंसर जस्ट 50% से ऊपर है, जस्ट हल्का 50% से ऊपर है, 51 तक नहीं पहुंचेगा, whether the options are 50.36, 51.27, 49.76, it really does not matter whether they are 3 decimal places or 4 decimal places, because the answers, you can quickly see that that answer will be just above 50%, some minutely above 50%. Okay, so whether the answer is 50.12%, it really is not required. Okay, so therefore it is very important that you have to get into a range. You have to understand the halves. You have to understand that half is 50%. You have to understand that 1/3 is 33.33%, right? Or 1/8 is, 1/8 as a percentage is 12.5% and all that stuff. So those figures, okay, if you can get those, if you can learn the multiplication tables at least till 20 into 10, if you can do squares of numbers till 25, you can do cubes of numbers till 15, if you are comfortable with fractions to percentages from, let's say, till even 1/20, okay, that should solve the calculation problem for at least 70 to 80% of the questions, trust me. Okay, because the options are really, really far apart. Okay, most of the options are really far apart. And if the options are that close, if the options are close correct to 2 decimal places. For example, if the options are like 50.1 to 50.13, 50.14 and 50.15 for the value that I gave you, was easiest shortcut. Don't even start with the question, because it will not require 2 decimal places, it will require 3 decimal places, because you will not get an answer even if you get 50.12, because 50.127 will give you the correct answer as 50.13, whereas 50.124 will give you the answer as 50.12. तो आप कहाँ तक कैलकुलेशन करते रहोगे? तो अगर ऑप्शंस उतने क्लोज है, शॉर्टेस्ट शॉर्टकट छोड़ दो, अटेम्प्ट ही मत करना, शुरू ही मत करना, ठीक है? और अगर ऑप्शन है 49, 50, 51 and 52, then even if you understand that the answer is just above 50, that is good enough. Okay, so therefore all I am fundamentally saying is that approximation is a very, very big tool in DI. Make sure that you practice it well. Learn tables, squares, cubes and fractions to percentages. I already gave you a range. Just a word of caution, आपने सुना होगा कैट में एक कैलकुलेटर है, एक ऑन स्क्रीन कैलकुलेटर है. Let me tell you, the on screen calculator is not very time friendly. Okay, जहां तक हो सके इसको अवॉइड ही कीजिए. ओके, आप ये मन बना के जाइए कि उसको यूज करने का टाइम आपको मिलेगा नहीं, बिकॉज it is really, it is based on clicks. Okay, it is the keyboard is disabled when you give cat, right? So when you click it, an on-screen calculator like this opens up with, let's say, 1 2 3 4 and so on, and division, multiplication and etc. Now every time we have to use it. For example, if you have to do 5243 divided by 7916 into 100, then practically what you have to do is you have to move your cursor, click on 5, then click on 2, then click on 4, then click on 3, then click on division, then click on 7, then click on 9, then 1, then 6. उससे पहले आप approximation से आंसर निकाल लोगे, ठीक है? So it is very important that you don't go the भरोसा of the calculator. If you think that उधर calculator तो है, मैं कर लूंगा, calculator is to be used in one uncanny situation, that is आपका सिचुएशन बहुत डेस्परेट है, एक ही सेट समझ में आया है, वही सेट करना पड़ेगा क्योंकि बाकी कोई सेट समझ में नहीं आया है, कैलकुलेशंस बहुत लंबे हैं, लेकिन क्या करे, ऑप्शंस बहुत क्लोज है, मैं नहीं करूंगा तो खाली जाएगा. इन सच सिचुएशंस ओनली you should use the calculator. Otherwise don't go depending on the calculator, please. Okay, the calculator is not time friendly. I don't know whether they will put in some new calculator this time or put in some better calculator this time, but otherwise yes, the calculator is not very user friendly. Like LR, as we had discussed in the last session, compare at least 2 sets at a time. Okay, so if you are comparing 2 DI sets, and I'm not guaranteeing that the DI sets will come together and the LR sets will come together, so the section strategy will be slightly different, but yes, I suggest first set and second set you should compare. You should see which one you have understood, and I'll talk about the strategies in the next slide, and then only you start. Okay, now for DI, generally have the belief that there is at least one easy set. Okay, job is to find that easy set and start, and therefore one thing that I am giving as a dictum is you have to do your time management in a manner that you should be able to see all sets. I'm not saying attempt all sets. Okay, I'm saying seeing all sets. You should be able to manage the time in a manner that आपको सारे सेट दिख जाए. तो कहने का मतलब ये है कि जैसे हम लोगों ने LR में भी बोला था, DI में भी मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ. In fact, the whole LR DI section per se, that you see the first 2 sets, choose one. Okay, and for that you give yourself, if there are 4 questions, you give yourself 10 minutes, और 10 minutes में जितना क्वेश्चन होता है उतना करिए. अगर पहला सेट बहुत जल्दी हो जाता है, देन सेकंड सेट अटेम्प्ट कीजिए. नहीं होता है तो फर्स्ट सेट अटेम्प्ट करके ही आप, then you go to the next 2 sets, compare and contrast, choose one, do it. Okay, आपको 40 minutes मिलेंगे अगर 2 घंटे का पेपर हुआ तो, for the LRDI section, and there will be approximately 5 to 6 sets. So that is the way you first spend 2 minutes in seeing both the sets and then deciding which one to do and which one not to do. Okay, for DI, very clearly, and this is again, remember, almost uncompromisable. If you don't understand at least 80% of the data, अगर आपको डेटा ही समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, ठीक है, कभी कभार होता है कि आपको डेटा ही समझ में नहीं है, डायग्राम ही कुछ अजीब सा है, और ये डायग्राम आप पहली बार देख रहे हैं, whether that set was easy or not, you are lucky, unlucky, it does not really matter. But if you have not understood at least 80% of the data, you should not start a DI set. Okay, don't start it for the romanticism part of it. No, start it only if you have understood at least 70 to not 70, at least 80% of the data. पूरा समझने का जरूरत नहीं है, वो जब आप क्वेश्चन करना चालू करेंगे तो अब आपको अपने आप थोड़ा थोड़ा समझ में आने लगेगा. So therefore don't get unduly worried about that part. But if you have understood at least 80% of the data, that's a good thing to start. A very, very important word of caution: the units in the data and the units in the question may be different. For example, the data may be given in millions, the question might be asking in lakhs. Okay, the data may be given in rupees, the question may be asking in kilos. Okay, so therefore it is very, very important that you keep a strong eye on units. Okay, and you see that the data and the questions are in sync with the units. Okay, similarly, sometimes these table bottoms and notes, एक डायग्राम है, आपने डायग्राम देखा लेकिन डायग्राम के नीचे एक लाइन है वो आप मिस कर गए, या there is a note sub note in the question or an additional information in the question. Okay, वो जो आप मिस कर जाते हो. For example, let's say in a Venn diagram question, many a times a very important information that is given is, assume that all these students have passed in at least one exam, or all these students play at least one game. Okay, इस टाइप का एक information रहता है. If you miss out on that, or if that information, or at least have a look out for this, because if you miss out on such an information, the answers can hugely change. So make sure that these notes, sub notes, table bottom notes are very, very important. There will be some questions where there are some arbitrary definitions that are invented by CAT question setter. Okay, you might be knowing about IQ is intelligence quotient and EQ is emotional quotient. They will introduce a new definition. They will define it. They will say it is living index quotient. You don't know what it is. Okay, this is something which was invented just for CAT by the question setter, and he will define it. So whenever it is something non-standard, whenever it is something which is not a part of syllabus or something like that, as discussed earlier, they will define it in the question for sure. Understand the definition. Don't sorry, my utility spelling is wrong, but yeah, don't fall for the utility part of it. Don't worry about कि ये definition मैं कैसे use करूं, because उसका utility आपको question करते हुए समझ में आ जाएगा. That is the intention of the question. Okay, so आर्बिट्री डेफिनेशंस को डेफिनेशन समझ लीजिए, कैसे निकालते हैं समझ लीजिए, उसका जिंदगी में यूटिलिटी क्या है उसको लेके सोचने मत बैठिए कैट में. दैट्स नॉट व्हाट इज रिक्वायर्ड. ओके, this is a very, very common practice in DI. What happens is we look at a new term and we get slightly unnerved saying that पता नहीं ये क्या है. ठीक है, so don't do that. ठीक है, there will be some new terms, there will be some new ways. If they are generally non-standard terms, they will be defined in CAT. CAT actually goes ahead and explains many of the definitions, even if they are supposed to be general knowledge. However, the basics that you are expected to know for DI, and I insist, even for all, irrespective of your background, simple annual growth rate, compounded annual growth rate. These are two things, and how do you calculate them? What is the interrelationship between the two? This is something which might be given as a abbreviation and not explained to you. They are sometimes explained, but they are not, sometimes not explained as well. SAGR, CAGR is something which you should be definitely knowing. Percentage more, percentage less, percentage growth rate, sales by volume, sales by value, ठीक है, averages, ठीक है, basic diagram like bar graph, line chart, cumulative bar graph, pie charts, okay, tables. These are some of the things. Venn diagrams, of course, whether you consider it as part of DI or LR, okay. These are some of the things where you should be able to read that diagram. You should have the basic knowledge about how to understand a cumulative bar chart, or how to read a pie chart. Obviously, these are some of the things that you will need to know. From previous year's papers, get an exposure on something called triangular charts, and a very very common question that comes is speed time graphs. ठीक है, जनरल क्वेश्चन रहता है कि नीचे नीचे वाले कोऑर्डिनेट में नीचे वाला जो कोऑर्डिनेट है ग्राफ का, उसमें आवर्स दिया रहता है कि 1 घंटे बाद उसका स्पीड कितना था, 2 घंटे बाद उसका स्पीड कितना था, 3 घंटे बाद उसका स्पीड कितना था, एंड द वर्टिकल कोऑर्डिनेट they give you the different speeds. Okay, now therefore you need to know that there are questions which come on non-uniform speeds. Okay, so search out for these questions. If you do a little bit of Google search, or you uh, compare or refer to any standard CAT preparation book, you will find these questions. So just see to it that this triangular charts, okay, and the speed time graph charts are something which you should be able to be exposed to, okay, because they have come. Okay, last things quickly, as we had discussed, in quant the basics and the concepts are prerequisites to practice. Don't do too much of questions to practice. Do some. It is good to do as many questions as possible, but sometimes what we do is we only focus on doing questions and increasing speed. We don't learn the concepts. For quant, the concept will become much more important than practice, okay, because questions can be given any twist. Contrary to that, in DI, practice plays an important role. If your quant skills are okay, for example, if your percentages skills are okay, if your averages skills are okay, if your calculation of percentage low, percentage high, percentage growth, SAGR, CAGR is okay, then in DI, practice plays a more important role while doing that. As I said, while analysis, during attempt and post attempt, look out for alternate solutions. Very very important for quant. At least one very grave mistake that we do in quant and DI is, after solving a set, or after doing a practice exercise, or after solving a mock CAT, we only analyze the questions which we have been able to do. Generally, if there are some questions which we are not able to do, we completely ignore them and we said ये तो हमसे होगा नहीं, well left, ये question कभी नहीं करना. Don't do that. Maybe that was an easy question, maybe that you don't know, okay, maybe using some concept it can become very easy. So therefore it is very very important that you try to solve all the questions at least post attempt of the paper, of a mock CAT or a sectional test or a exercise, whatever it is. जो questions आपसे नहीं हुए, okay, उनको जरूर देखिए, उनके solutions देखिए. If you are not doing that, then your practice is not full. ठीक है, please remember, in quant as well as in DI, you should be sure that it is a question well left. Okay, as I said, logarithm के क्वेश्चन देख के हम लोग छोड़ देते हैं ये बोल के कि टफ चैप्टर है, हमसे नहीं होगा. अगर लॉगरिथम के बेसिक कॉन्सेप्ट्स आपके पास है, देन आई कैन विद गारंटी टेल यू, कैट में जितने क्वेश्चंस लॉगरिथम्स का आए हैं उससे मोर देन 90% ऑफ द क्वेश्चंस आर इन लेवल ऑफ डिफिकल्टी 1 और एट बेस्ट 2. ओके, सो देयरफॉर लॉगरिथम्स की इजी क्वेश्चन है वो तो हो जाना चाहिए ना, इफ योर लॉगरिथम के कॉन्सेप्ट इज क्लियर. सो देयरफॉर डोंट डंप दैट क्वेश्चन, डोंट से दैट ये तो हमसे होगा ही नहीं एंड देयरफॉर यू डंप इट अप. ओके, one of the biggest differences between VRC and DI quant is, in DI and quant, because it is slightly low attempt in terms of number of attempts, accuracy is much more important than speed, at least during your preparation time. मैं एग्जाम के दिन क्या होगा उसका बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ, but on this next 45 days, accuracy is much more important than speed. Let accuracy come by effort. क्वेश्चन सही करने का कोशिश कीजिए, जल्दी करने का कोशिश, एज आई सेड, शुड कम ऑर्गेनिकली. ठीक है, जितने आपके कॉन्सेप्ट्स अच्छे होते जाएंगे, जितना आप ये प्रैक्टिस करेंगे कि क्या मैं ऑल्टरनेटिव सॉल्यूशंस निकाल पा रहा हूँ, क्या मैं ऑप्शन से सॉल्व कर पा रहा हूँ, जितना वो इनबिल्ट होता जाएगा उस पर ध्यान दीजिए. जितना वो इनबिल्ट होता जाएगा उतना आपको स्पीड कम लगेंगे, उतना आपको ज्यादा क्वेश्चन अटेम्प्ट होंगे. बट लेट स्पीड कम naturally. Don't try for speed, rather improve your concepts, improve your accuracy, ensure that whatever you are attempting are getting correct. Then your score will be good. Speed, trust me, will come organically closer to the exam. अभी भागम भाग मत कीजिए, उससे आपके एक्यूरेसी और स्पीड दोनों खराब हो जाएंगे. बिकॉज अगर आप स्पीड बढ़ाने जाओगे तो एक्यूरेसी ड्रॉप करेगा और अल्टीमेटली होगा ये कि आपके स्कोर बहुत कम हो जाएंगे, व्हिच डिमोटिवेट्स यू. Rather, I would attempt 10 questions, get 9 of them correct, instead of attempting 50 questions and 7 questions wrong. Okay, that does not help. So at least during the preparation days, concentrate more on accuracy. Let speed come automatically. Speed will come close as you move closer to the exam date. That will be very, very helpful, right? Thank you very much. That is it from my side. Nirmal, you can take over. Yeah, over to you, Nirmal.
Yeah, thank you, Dhruvajyoti sir. That was a great session. In fact, you have touched upon very key points, which I'm sure would help our students community to enhance their scores. A couple of things which I have just noted out. One of the questions which you mentioned, that is also there in one of our mock tests. In fact, students can also try out the mock test, the various sets of mock tests which we have listed out in our site. The one question which which has come, I guess you have not addressed that, which says that diagrams are tough, something of that sort. I think it's like compared to the time and distance.
Okay, Rajesh says geometry is taking less time compared to time and distance. Okay, so there is no such general rule like that, Rajesh. I will not put it that way. I would not generalize the case. However, if your prowess in geometry seems to be more, if your accuracy in geometry question seems to be better than your time and distance questions, so be it. I mean, be happy about it. At least you know which is better. This is not an easy thing to have. So congratulations, at least you know that your geometry is better. And that's fantastic. I think that should work well. However, ऐसा मत कीजिए कि हम लोग टाइम एंड डिस्टेंस देखते उसको छोड़ दे. टाइम एंड डिस्टेंस भी ठीक कर लीजिए. There is absolutely nothing wrong in time and distance be as good as geometry for you. So therefore, that's how it is.
So the other point which you also mentioned is there is nothing called tough question or nothing called tough paper or nothing called easy paper. It depends basically upon how.
No. I would like to stop here. I say there is nothing called tough chapter or easy chapter.
Right.
Yeah. There is nothing called tough chapter or easy chapter. वो आपके comfort zone के ऊपर है. But having said that, even if you have shortlisted something called a tough chapter, उतना आपके concepts clear होने चाहिए कि level of difficulty 1-2 questions अगर उससे आए तो आपका correct होना चाहिए question.
That's very nice. I mean, like, definitely, it's all in our brains, and DI or in corporate world also, like, no data is useful, or rather, I would put it in a different way. Data is useless unless until you are interpreting it in the right way, right?
Absolutely.
So it stands good in this case also. interpretation has to be at least 80% correct, as you said.
Yes.
It may not be 100%, but we should attempt it. And once we attempt the easy or the doable questions, maybe we should look into the not very easy to understand questions, but
Yes.
not leave those, right? That's what
Correct.
you suggest.
You should be able to see all of them. Yes.
Thank you so much. A great session once again. Next Friday we are not having a session, but next Friday we are again coming back with a new topic. Do log in and keep watching. Happy learning. Thank you so much. The Indian GP is now on, so I would request all of you to cheer for Bharat GP. That's being held in Greater Noida, Budh Circuit. Till then, goodbye. Thank you.